Welcome to Horror Geeks to 100 Days of Horror. I don't know, it's weird lighting for you when I started there for it, like I saw. But nothing changed, so that's kind of weird. Anyway, welcome to 100 Days of Horror with cityofgeek.com, in which we watch 100 movies that we haven't seen on the 100 horror movies we haven't seen on the days leading up to Halloween. So we get 100 days at that point. It's not just me, myself, Cody, Kim, and occasionally Tony, but a bunch of other people. So go to follow that link down below. We'll go to the Facebook group where you can post what you're watching, and I'll put it up onto the webpage, and we'll talk about them on there. There's a nice little discussion going on, about 175 members currently, about 20 of which I believe are following through. Other people might be doing it or just watching what we're talking about. So come and join us and do that wonderful challenge with us. Even if you have no ability to make it all the way through, it's always fun to try. It's always fun to seek out things you haven't seen. So much as I like watching Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street over and over again, I love finding new stuff I haven't seen. So we are 20 days, we are 19 days in with this review. We're actually at 25 in real life. I'm still behind my reviews. Um, and then, so where I'm doing some YouTube lives, so things that look a little wonky. So if you're watching the last couple, and I do apologize about that, but I'm glad to get something out there of my thoughts on today's film, which is The Woman from 2011, written and directed by Lucky McGee, written worked and co-written with Jack Ketchum. Jack Ketchum was writing the novel for this at the same time that they were working on the screenplay. So I'm not sure if he has direct credit for that or just based on the novel but it's a Jack Ketchum for sure. So this works as a sequel to both The Offspring and The Off Season, two of his earlier books, and now the sequel for this, Darling, came out this year. So I was watching this so I can watch Darling now that it's released, because I did miss this one's original release. So it's definitely, if you've read or seen anything from Jack Ketchum, you know what this type of stuff is. Very dark, a lot of brutality, especially female-based brutality of attacking a woman and then hopefully getting a comeuppance. We don't always get that, like the girl next door, but that happens a lot. You just get everyone getting fucked up continually, awful people doing awful things to other people, and everyone who's lost in the mist. And that's what we get with the woman. So we have the basic plot is the last survivor of the clan from the previous two versions. You don't have to see those. Well, actually, Off Season I don't think has actually been adapted. You don't have to see The Offspring or read the two previous books in order to follow this at all, because we do meet the last person in a cannibalistic clan who's a feral woman who gets kidnapped by a asshole of a guy and put into the cellar of their barn, and he tries to civilize her by cleaning her up and feeding her. Of course, he has no real intention to actually trying to make her better or civilized, but more to be brutal against her. And he brings his family in to be as brutal to her as he is, and his son goes right along with it. The women have a lot more issues, and where things turn out from there. You can guess where some things would go based upon this, but some of the stuff is a big surprise. So if you're turned off in any way of any untoward brutality against people, especially women who side out, this is not rude for you. So in that way, it's a rough watch, both in content and a lot in the way it was made. I like Lucky Bee's other movies, The Woods with Lisa Clarkson, and of course May, which also featured Andrew Bettis, who's in this as well. I felt were much better made movies. This one felt really amateur with a lot of the cuts and the way it was shot. A lot of the performances, all the women are great. I'll give that there, but the two lead men, the dad and the son, were both bloody awful. They were just they didn't none of course they're awful characters in that way, but they're just badly performed. I hated the dad's this performance never felt there. He never felt like an actual person in any way. Though he's doing lines and going that. But Angela Bettis plays his wife, and she's absolutely amazing. But especially props to Pollyanna McIntosh, who plays the woman. Um, doesn't a lot of her is reaction and movement. She doesn't get to speak all that much, so she sells a lot with that. And then she directed Darling. So I haven't seen Darling yet. I'm hopefully watch that soon later on. 100 Days of Horror if it comes out streaming for like on Amazon Prime right now. It's the pay to rent it, so I'll wait a little bit. But I do want to watch that sometime this year. But that's a whole different thing. And then we also had Lauren Ashley Carter, who's kind of making a name for herself now. A couple years later, she was in Imitation Girl last year. And then she was in one of my favorite shorts from last year, also Once Bitten, funny vampire story that I've seen a couple different places. Most recently at I think it played at Crypticon, might have, but I know it played a Great Fall Festival for our friends over there who do comment on 100 Days of Horror. So if you're watching that, Taylor and Tony, thank you for showing that because the movie was great. I know that Haley really liked it from the Gory Hole and Horror Addicts, one of our friend channels there. And then yeah, so the Angela Bettis is great. Everyone's great in it. It was still a fascinating movie, even if I didn't like the way that it was made in many cases. And I understand that's maybe trying to bring it down to that level, but just felt not gritty, just not done right. Uh, but if all, and then there's so yeah, it's a brutal film. It's a tough film to get through, but still a fascinating made one as these people react to everything that's happening around them. I like that wasn't just a cookie cutter take on this, like that everyone immediately wasn't completely into it or wasn't completely turned off by it, but it's gradual on different levels of the way they reacted, along with the stuff that's going on in their lives too. The intense trauma that they're going through, even if they didn't have a woman in their basement. Um, but yeah, this was a very well done movie despite its issues. Ultimately, so I thought it was amateur in the way it was made, but and some of the performances, but it was still gripping and fascinating. I'm looking forward to seeing how Darling is, and one day I'll go back and check out Offspring, which isn't directed or written by Lucky Me at all. Just it's a sequel to that book in that way. So I'm not always the best at giving out letter grades for some of these, but I'm gonna give that something B minus. Uh, it's hard to say this is your cup of tea because it's definitely no one really should have this cup of tea. But yeah, when it started, I started watching the first few minutes. I'm like, is this Jack Ketchum? Without knowing, so I just put it in and I went on, and then it popped up like written by Jack Ketchum, like written by a novel from Jack Ketchum. Like, yeah, totally, because it has that feel like almost instantly. So if you dig Jack Ketchum, this will be fine for you. If you don't, you're like, no, no. But thank you for watching. So like, comment, subscribe. And it looks like lost connection again. Uh, I don't know if there's jump there because it said I lost connection, but I was talking about the podcast, the last one. So go to iTunes and subscribe to those. Subscribe to this so you can find other videos coming out. Go to cv.com to see what everyone else is watching and talking about. Tonight we're also going to see 47 Meters Down, so hopefully we have a response for that for the sequel, which will be your next issue, entry for all of us. And we'll see you next time at CF Geek in the stream. And like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell. Thanks.